Here's a topic I'm sure none of you are sick of hearing about from video essayists around this time of year. What exactly is a Christmas movie? Since the dawn of mass media, there's never been more incentive to create works of art based around the vastly commercialized holiday that we know as Christmas. Because if you end up crafting a Christmas classic, that buys you an untold amount of longevity in the culture, especially in the case of movies. Of course, hardly anybody sets out to make a Christmas classic as their goal. I doubt that was what Frank Capra had in mind when he made It's a Wonderful Life. And besides, a lot of what we know of as Christmas classics took time to become those in the first place. Entering what some may call the Christmas canon is a process that can take years of annual rewatches and assessments before they can even be considered a part of it. For this reason, I see people branch out beyond the Rankin Bass puppets and Clark Griswold meltdowns and attempt to relitigate movies of the past to see if they can be unconventional entries in the canon. And we're talking beyond Die Hard.
Welcome to the party, pal!
As long as the movie is set at Christmas or has Christmas time as an important plot point, anything is fair game. Apart from the setting, the criteria for a Christmas movie is quite broad because Christmas has different meanings for different people. For many, it's a warm holiday of community and giving. For others, it's a time of melancholy that causes us to reflect on our life and the year past. And for some, it's a bitter time where tension and stress seem to coalesce into one unhappy misfortune. The Christmas movie is diverse, covering all mediums, genres, and moods. Which is why this holiday season, I am covering an anime Christmas movie. Or rather, the anime Christmas movie.
It's been
abandoned.
KYOTO ビデオ
This bundle of joy is a Christmas present sent from God! She's our baby now!
It's a very snowy Christmas Eve in Tokyo, and amidst all the lights and displays are three wayward souls living on the streets. Gin, a cynical middle-aged drunk.
Oh, you think a burden on society like you deserves respect?
and you're a burden on the burden. So what does that make you? The garbage the trash throws away?
Hana, a theatrical trans woman.
I got more knocking around in my head than a homo with no balls.
No, sweetie, God gave me a pair of those by mistake. Oh, but I know in my heart I'm more woman than anyone.
And Miyuki, a bratty teenage runaway.
A whole 20-volume set of world literature for children.
What? Why would I want that baby crap?
These three, being homeless, are trying to celebrate Christmas the only way they can, having their feast be from the soup kitchen and digging through the trash for any possible Christmas presents. But during that quest for gifts, they hear a sound of an infant crying, alone and abandoned on this cold winter's night. Among the infant's possessions are a key to a storage locker and a note asking whoever finds the baby to take good care of her. The unhoused trio is conflicted about what to do. Gen wants to just drop the baby off at the police, but Hana, who takes an immediate liking to the child, decides that it is their duty to not just take care of her, but to also use the clues they are given to find Kyoko's parents, Kyoko being the name Hana gives the child.
Kyoko! Kyoko! Why is her name Kyoko?
From Kyo, pure, on this purest of nights.
So begins a trek through the Tokyo winterscape as these three misfits try to reunite the lost child with her mother and maybe finding what each of them have lost along the way.
Oh, a new haiku. A little baby, powdery snow on its cheeks on this holy night.
2003's Tokyo Godfathers is a film I had to do this year at this time, the Christmas of the year it turns 20 years old. I said it before, but I don't get to do Christmas episodes very often for this show, and when I do, I like to make an event out of it. Well, there's no event bigger than celebrating the ultimate Christmas anime's Big 2-0. Plus, it's a great excuse to talk more about the film's director, Satoshi Kon. Yes, I did have to skip over Millennium Actress to get to this, and I'd also like to really cover that one of these days, but Tokyo Godfathers can skip ahead in line. Because it's not just a Christmas movie, but it's also Kon's most grounded and humanist work. It's his black sheep project, one that might not have been manifested into this world without some help from some key collaborators. But slow down, Rudolph, we're getting ahead of ourselves. This video is my gift to you, the audience. I want to extol the greatness of Tokyo Godfathers as both a great film and a great Christmas film. One that's worthy to enter the pantheon of holiday classics without the benefit of repeated airings on Freeform. Hey, it's a better 2003 Christmas movie than Elf.
10 a.m. Santa's coming to town.
Fair warning though, I will be talking about spoilers for Tokyo Godfathers, so if you haven't seen this movie and still want to proceed down this chimney of a video essay, don't be too surprised if I light any fires.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but what can we do about it?
Find her parents and ask them why they abandoned their baby.
The birth of Tokyo Godfathers happened right in the middle of Millennium Actress's production. One of his Madhouse producers came up to Kon and asked him what were his future plans after Millennium Actress. Kon gave it some thought and decided that what he should do for his next film was something that was the complete opposite of what he had been doing with his last two films. Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress were films that sought to blend the world of dreams with reality to craft a level of unreality that makes you question whether or not anything you are witnessing on film is even real. Kon realized that if he did that approach a third time in a row, it would just feel repetitive. He wanted to make something completely different, something rooted in humanity and realism, something that would challenge him as an artist. After 2 months of brainstorming and writing a brief proposal, Madhouse accepted and the Tokyo Godfathers project began in earnest. With that, Kon recruited two people he knew would help him greatly on this project. The first was screenwriter Keiko Nobumoto, a graduate of Takao Koyama's Anime Scenario House, a school founded specifically to train the future of anime screenwriters. Nobumoto's first true gig was co-writing Kazuhiro Otomo's live-action film, World Apartment Horror. It was there she came into contact with fellow rookie Satoshi Kon. They became fast friends / drinking buddies and hoped to one day collaborate on a project together since their creative energies aligned so much with each other. After spending time working on various live-action projects I don't have the footage for, Nobumoto made her grand step into the world of anime by writing for Macross Plus and forming a relationship with her more frequent collaborator, Shinichiro Watanabe. This would eventually lead to the two of them making an anime called Cowboy Bebop. In fact, it was Nobumoto who coined the catchy title for the project. Meanwhile, Kon still wanted to collaborate on a project like the two of them had promised. During pre-production on Perfect Blue, he had called her up to ask for help writing, but scheduling conflicts with her developing Bebop prevented that. It would not be until 5 years later when Kon was able to get in touch with her and asked if she would be interested in helping him write the story for Tokyo Godfathers. And being that her schedule was now free since she hadn't gone on to make Wolf's Rain yet, she accepted. It's important to know that the reason Nobumoto was an important part of Tokyo Godfathers is because her writing specialty was crafting very grounded and humanist stories, even in fantastic settings. She was practically made to write a story like Tokyo Godfathers. The second person was Kenichi Konishi, Kon's choice for animation director. Konishi was a Ghibli-trained animator who got his start as a key animator on Ocean Waves, the movie meant to give the new generation of Ghibli creatives their chance to shine before Miyazaki wrestled the controls away from them like always. From his output, Konishi was adept at realism in his animation cuts, with his subjects feeling more like actors than drawings on a cell. This is best shown in Whisper of the Heart, where he animated the famous Country Road segment, a scene that took him over 1,000 drawings and a year and a half of work to complete. But the Ghibli film that got Kon's attention was My Neighbors the Yamadas, Konishi's first gig as an animation director. Kon was impressed by how Konishi was able to get his animators to achieve consistent human-like animation with such incredibly cartoonish character designs. Konishi was initially brought on board as support for Kon's original animation director choice, Takeshi Honda, but once scheduling conflicts caused Honda to have to take a step back early in production, Konishi stepped forward. Overall, production did go smoothly, especially considering that this was Kon's first digitally animated film. The only problem it did have was, thanks to Kon having to do international promotion for Millennium Actress at the time, production often ground to a halt when he was overseas. By the time the film was complete in October 2003, it was 6 months behind schedule. The film was slated to be an international release through Sony Pictures and Columbia TriStar. For the States, Sony would foist distribution duties on their incredibly underfunded boutique studio Destination, who had also done similar deals with Metropolis and Cowboy Bebop the movie. So while Tokyo Godfathers did get a theatrical release in the States, it was very limited and very cheap. Destination didn't even produce an English dub for it. So why did Sony even take the deal to begin with if they were just going to dump it into 8 theaters nationwide? Well, this was done in the aftermath of Spirited Away winning the Oscar in 2002. As a result, studios tried to get a lot of foreign animation films to qualify for the Best Animated Feature nomination as a way to sneakily nab an Oscar. But since the following year would mark the beginning of Pixar dominating the category, Sony couldn't even get Tokyo Godfathers on the ballot. It also didn't fare any better in its home country. Despite the international release, Sony Pictures really could not figure out how to market a grounded animated tragicomedy about the plight of the homeless to general audiences. So they didn't. Despite positive critical reception, Tokyo Godfathers only grossed a combined $847,106 against a $2.4 million budget. Not great, but the troubles did not end there. While Destination did put a DVD out on April 13th, 2004, sub-only and in standard definition, it was still a very limited run of the film which went out of print quite quickly. And for many years, Tokyo Godfathers was one of Kon's most inaccessible works for those who did not know how to pirate. This could be due to a combination of things, partially because of Kon's untimely death in 2010 causing legal rights to be entangled with his estate, and partially Madhouse being bought by Nippon TV in 2014, causing them to pull out of international deals as belts began to tighten. It's only thanks to the mad lads at G-Kids who, after 15 years, were able to release a brand new high-definition copy of the film complete with an all-new dub, thus ensuring that you have no excuse to not watch it now. But let's rewind back a few paragraphs. Back to where I talked about Sony Pictures' difficulty with marketing this film. Because, while it ultimately got a positive reception from some critics, people at both Sony and the press questioned one aspect of the film that they saw as a deal breaker. Why does a film with this subject matter need to be animated? Couldn't have Kon just done it in live action? I'm gonna start this section by pissing my audience off with a story. Back when the anime was holding its premiere in France, animation historian Amit Amidi was invited to partake in the opening night screening, and this is what he had to say. Like Satoshi Kon's earlier film, sorry, I gotta do this in the correct voice. Like Satoshi Kon's earlier film Millennium Actress, this opening night film of the festival also whisked me away into a deep slumber. But that's not the surprise. Following the film, I ran into animation legend Ray Harryhausen at the opening night party and we chatted a bit. He asked me what I thought about Tokyo Godfathers and I admitted that I fell asleep during the film. Ray then gave me his review of the film and in the process showed me why he is a legend. Because he has great taste. Ray said that there was absolutely no reason to produce Godfathers in animation because it didn't take advantage of the medium. He also pondered why filmmakers had designed all the characters to be so unappealing and ugly. I didn't think there was any way I could have more respect for Ray Harryhausen than I already did, but he showed me the way. And while I'm sure Amidi's opinion on Kon's oeuvre has warmed up over the years thanks to dead artists being better, his and stop-motion legend Ray Harryhausen's opinion of the film was a sticking point for critics. Why should a film steeped in realism be done in a medium that's the complete opposite? Certainly Kon himself was aware of this dismissive attitude.
アニメーションの可能性は無限に広がっているっていうようないいよもっともらしいことを言いつつ実はねじゃあこういう企画を出した時になんでアニメでって同じ口が言うんですよ、自分たちで狭めてると思うんですよその表現の可能性が無限にあるって言いながら
And to Amidi and Harryhausen's arguments, I say respectfully to the two of them, get bent. Tokyo Godfathers absolutely can be told in the animated medium. Thinking otherwise is largely the reason why American animated film is so limited. It's not just that Tokyo Godfathers is a grounded comedy drama animated, but it animates all the groundedness so beautifully. First, let's address one of Amidi's big complaints, the character designs. Kon and Konichi's designs aren't ugly. They are characterized realism. You see the humanity in them without having them be plunged off the edge into the uncanny valley. It's great character designs that allows for both zany cartoonish reaction shots for comedy as well as achingly genuine emotion for drama. Tokyo Godfathers had to be animated because I don't think film actors would have been able to carry the wide range of emotions the animators imbue these characters with. It's amazing to see the work a group of mostly action-oriented directors put out under Konichi's tutelage. The results are character moments that feel exaggerated and off-model, but still based in some reality. There's scenes like Gin getting drunk in the cemetery where his sloshy, tipsy acting is complemented by his cartoonishly red face, done by Masashi Ando.
If you would shut up, then maybe I could think of something!
I ain't shutting nothing, and I know what you're thinking. But you can't get milk out of your tits no matter how hard you squeeze.
There's Hideki Hamisu's cut where Hana is trying to bribe a cab driver in a very theatrical manner, right down to briefly becoming the caddy she's trying to bribe.
I need a man who speaks with a thick downtown accent, who says things like, "Hey, don't sweat a thing." That's the man of my dreams, particularly when I don't have the cab fare.
And then there's probably the best instance of character acting done by Shinji Otsuka in the scene where Hana angrily calls out Gin in the hospital. Her facial expressions are constantly going off model in this scene, especially her eyes, but it helps underline the anger she's feeling at him in this moment.
What? Did I hear that right? He thinks I owe him for what he did earlier. You have no right to tell me about debt. On the other hand, you are an authority on digging through garbage.
But as much as this film is 90% human acting as reflected by its genre, it doesn't stop this down-to-earth dramedy from having a climactic and awesomely animated car chase by Toshiyuki Inouye. Hey, Juzo Itami did it in Supermarket Woman, why not Kon? But no matter how cartoony the characters get, what keeps them firmly planted in reality are the environments. Kon emphasized the importance of the story taking place in hyper-realistic versions of modern Tokyo, with specific emphasis on the environments that aren't often given attention to from people trying to sell the more touristy version of Tokyo. I was interested in exploring parts of Tokyo not usually seen, like the alleyways and paths I would take on my way to work. I'd always wanted to show Tokyo as I knew it. The director shared my desire. When he told me he'd be using that side of Tokyo in his next film, I knew the job was for me. We tried to be extremely faithful. We wanted Tokyo to become a character in itself. Through constant tours of the urban landscape with a digital camera, Kon gave art director Nobutake Ike plenty of references to capture the deep essence of the unseen Tokyo. What he wanted was realism. He wanted to make sure every single detail was captured to make this world feel real. Namely, he wanted a lot of emphasis on the clutter of Tokyo. He wanted to make everything in Tokyo, from the crowded city streets to the musty alleyways to piles upon piles of garbage, look beautiful, using a philosophy he dubbed beautiful garbage. This is what makes the world of Tokyo Godfathers feel so elaborately lived in. And though Kon emphasized massive attention to detail to his artists, a lot of the detail was already done in his storyboard. According to the animation obsessive, the basis of all the layouts were from Kon's boarding, to the point that roughly 10% of the film's shots were built on unaltered storyboards. One background detail that was difficult to capture, though, was snow. Taking place in the dead of winter, some of the environments in the movies are covered with blankets of snow. A once crowded street at night can become the Phendrana drifts the next morning. Capturing the realism of the snow was all due to Ike's knowledge of lighting and color theory, painting white upon white to create an imperceptible layering effect that you can't see, but you can feel. But it's not just the visuals that draw you into this world. Keiichi Suzuki's soundtrack also gets the job done on the sound front, and I'm sure some video game fans watching this right now just perked up their ears. A legend from the Japanese prog scene, Suzuki is partially responsible for composing the soundtracks for the Mother and Earthbound games alongside Hip Tanaka. Kon specifically wanted Suzuki to bring a lively, upbeat sound to this film. It ensures that no matter how dark things get over the course of the narrative, it is ultimately a hopeful story. A reassurance, Suzuki tells us, through a soundtrack that's part Wendy Carlos, part traditional Japanese folk music, and part Dixieland jazz. And we cannot forget the voice actors for the main trio, who are all tour de forces in both versions. Bucking conventional wisdom like always, Kon reached out beyond the typical Seiyu crowd and casted actors from the stage and screen in his roles. For Gin, you have lifer Toru Amori bringing to life a performance that carries the weight of the world from half a lifetime on the streets.
女房みたいなこと言うんじゃねえ。行かねえよ、ほら。
Playing Hana was TV host slash part-time drag queen Yoshiaki Umegaki, definitely playing up her comical attributes through his baritone.
行きましょう。歌でも歌わない。
Climb every mountain.
何それ？
サウンドミュージックじゃないの。
知らねえ。
But nevertheless having the range to pull off her emotional scenes.
清子ももうすぐお母さんに会える。
その後は？だって花さん、本当の家族いないじゃん。
And Aya Okamoto plays a wonderful Miyuki, really bringing the true sullenness of a teenager with all the reasons to hate the world that surrounds her.
最初にそう言ったじゃん。
The English dubcast also brings the heat. Victoria Grace's Miyuki has excellent moodiness with that vulnerable center.
My mom's religious. All she does is, oh Lord, Jesus, please, oh God, Lord, Jesus, Lord, God.
And John Avner makes Gin come alive with a voice that sounds like it came straight from the gutter.
Maybe it was Santa Claus.
It wasn't Santa Claus. Come on, let's go find them.
Damn it, what is that bastard thinking?
But the MVP is Shakina Nafok as Hana, not only having the benefit of being an actual trans woman voicing Hana.
I beg you to look after my little angel. Go on, leave me here to the snow. But remember me for the mother I was and forever will be.
But also giving her a sharper and sassier tongue. When she argues with Gin, they really give off the biggest old married couple energy.
Except women can have babies.
If the Virgin Mary got pregnant, that same miracle might happen to someone like me and land a baby right here.
If anything, the animated version of Tokyo and Tokyo Godfathers feels way more real than anything that could have been done in live action. Don't let any Grinches tell you otherwise, regardless if they're famous special effects artists or not. Just because the animation is more grounded than you would expect from an animated feature doesn't mean it can't serve the story. On the contrary, it serves its story quite well. And in Matthew 2:12 it says, "In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, 'Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising, and have come to pay him homage.'" Out of the 4 canonical Gospels, this is the only mention of the 3 wise men, or the 3 magi. Yet they remain fixtures of the nativity throughout history and art depicting the greatest story ever told. One of them was a 1913 novel by Peter B. Kyne that adapted the story of the Magi into a western about 3 bank robbers who became unwitting godfathers to an orphan newborn. The story, The Three Godfathers, was so popular that it itself was adapted into several films. The most well-known film adaptation was released in 1948 by John Ford. A technical remake of one of his first films he ever did that's lost to time, Ford leaned into the Magi comparisons of this version by having the film explicitly take place during Christmas time.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas to all.
This is what ended up inspiring noted film geek Satoshi Kon in the writing of Tokyo Godfathers. And while he certainly changed a lot in translation, he kept the main through line of 3 unlikely heroes having to take care of an innocent infant. The big change, aside from the setting obviously, was Kon deciding to turn a redemption narrative that 3 self-professed bad men go through in caring for a newborn child into more of a series of misadventures that these 3 unhoused people go through in caring for a newborn child. The film is an odyssey through the unseen parts of Tokyo involving people on the fringes of Japanese society. Not just homeless people, but also yakuza, drag queens, sex workers, immigrants. Basically, the people of Japan who don't often get their stories told outside of the Like a Dragon series. And Kon uses this journey to make some cutting social commentary on how people treat these people. Through the eyes of our unhoused heroes, we get a good look at how other people treat them, either by averting their eyes on the streets, loudly loudly berating them for even being in public, or in the worst case scenario, rowdy teenagers beating them within an inch of their lives without fear of reprisal.
I have to wonder what we look like to them.
Like a bum, a queer, a runaway, and an orphan.
It's really the other people on the fringes of society that show them any sort of help and compassion along their journey. Even a wealthy Yakuza is perfectly willing to invite them to his daughter's lavish wedding just as a way to repay them for saving his life. But it's not just the people surrounding these three characters that help or hinder them along their journey. We also have the city of Tokyo itself. If the dancing buildings and the credits didn't clue you in, Kon does see the city as another major character in the story. It's not just the environment our characters traipse through, but it's also helping tell the story. It provides excellent visual gags, such as the lights of a building acting like a health bar in a fighting game when Gin is being beaten by the teenagers. It gives both the characters and the audience necessary information through nearby radio and TV broadcasts. It helps bring our heroes together through the power of a well-funded public transportation infrastructure. It even smartly delivers a piece of very detailed and lengthy exposition through a gaggle of gossiping housewives.
I remember the mother-in-law always complaining, and after the wife for not doing housework.
I bet she thought her son was perfect, though.
Of course she did. That's why I had to explain to her she'd never see a grandchild with her daughter-in-law working in a club.
Tokyo Godfathers is not just a city-based comedy of errors with light social commentary mixed in for spice. It's also a pretty well-executed mystery. Gin, Hana, and Miyuki only have a few clues to go on to the whereabouts of Kyoko's parents, and it sends them to places where they have to gather more information, and sometimes it will lead them to a complete and utter dead end. But eventually, they do figure out the mystery of who Kyoko's parents are and where they are now. And this is where I reveal the big plot twist of the movie, so get ready to open the presents under the tree for this one. So after making a detour at a hospital, Hana and Gin have another fight that ends with Hana and Miyuki leaving without Gin, who goes off in the opposite direction. And while this is happening, we the audience overhear a news report regarding a kidnapping case from a maternity ward involving a baby that matches Kyoko's description. Hana and Miyuki then come across a young woman trying to jump off a bridge, but rescue her before she does. We learn her name is Sachiko, and that she is the woman our three heroes have been looking for this entire time. So they do the right thing and return Kyoko to her, who can't stop crying for some reason, even though she's been reunited with her mother. Gin, meanwhile, has decided to see this mystery to the end and goes to the apartment address the clues have led them to. There, he finds Sachiko's deadbeat husband living in his own filth, and he spills the beans that his crazy wife stole Kyoko from the hospital and that he was the one who abandoned the baby in the trash heap. So Hana and Miyuki gave Kyoko back to her kidnapper. And this twist is directed amazingly with how we cut back and forth between those two scenes as one makes the other go from heartwarming to horrifying.
It wasn't me. And that kid isn't even mine.
What?
Don't cry. You're going home.
The sequel to Inside You Never Knew You Needed. Also a Christmas movie, by the way. And that's what ends up leading to the climactic car chase so that our heroes can right one more wrong before the story's ends. But as much as Baby Kyoko plays into the story of Tokyo Godfathers, the story is more about the Godfathers in question. So how are they handled? Apart from Japanese society not wanting to address its homelessness problem like it was American society, stories about the unhoused are obviously not the kind of stories you see from most anime creators. Satoshi Kon is not like most anime creators though. He knew he was taking a huge risk by having the story be centered around three members from a segment of society that's not shown in the best light, if at all. Gin, Hana, and Miyuki are one of the best written trios I've seen lead a movie, each of them with their own personalities, histories, and associated traumas that allows them to stick together as a unit, but also realistically have conflict with each other. They are a found family if there ever was one. Emphasis on family considering they fill the roles of father, mother, and child.
Miyuki, sweetie, would you please close your legs? You're supposed to be a lady.
I am a lady.
Kon has gone on record that, even though they are not related by blood, they always need to feel like a real family. Each of these characters are super layered. Everything from the story beats to their comedic moments are driven by our three characters, their sociability, their philosophies of life, their desires, their fear and prejudices, and it all pays off somehow. For example, we learn early in the story that Miyuki adores cats. We need to know this because not only is it an essential part of her journey as a character, but also because it sets up this joke.
Have you ever wondered if cat meat's any good?
Try anything and I'll end you!
We also learn about their histories via comments from other characters. Thanks to a single line from another unnamed unhoused person, we know that Gin has taken Miyuki under his wing the entire time she's been on the streets, and is largely the reason why she's lasted this long out there.
I know you. You're that girl who hangs out with Gin all the time. What are you doing out here anyway?
Get going already. I don't want to hear about it from Gin after.
And certain little actions from the three can tell us so much about them. In the first scene, we see that out of all the homeless people partaking in the Christmas Eve sermon for a free meal, only Hana is paying attention to it, showing us that she's not just a trans woman, but a Christian, a two-for minority in Japan.
This bread is a gift, don't just gobble it. You have to eat it with love and with care. Think of those who made it for you.
When you get all religious like that, it makes me want to throw up.
Kon put a lot of thought in creating these characters. He did not want their portrayal of them being unhoused to be seen as a representation of social ills, and especially not drains on society. He wanted the trio situation to be a symptom of problems that anybody could imagine conceivably happening to them. Gin is initially shown to have been on the streets through some truly bad luck. He was a professional cyclist who was banned for life from the sport just because he got caught gambling on his races with the Yakuza just so he could get his daughter a life-saving operation.
It was a lot for a man to handle. I couldn't work, things got worse, and my wife followed my daughter.
Oh, that's awful.
That's how you get to be a man like me.
It's not until later that we learn that the whole story was something he made up to paint himself more sympathetically. He was actually a deadbeat who drank and gambled the minuscule profits away from his failing bike shop he owned, and that his wife and daughter left his ass after a get-rich-quick scheme drained the entire family's funds. Gin's overall cynicism and bad attitude extends mostly to himself. He's been on the streets the longest out of the three, and that's mostly because of his belief that it's the only place a bum like him deserves to be.
I have some trash to get rid of. I don't think I'm gonna fit.
Hana, for all her positive outlook on life, is nursing a lot of trauma in it. The main reason why she wants to go on this quest to find Kyoko's mother, because she herself was an unwanted child who never even knew her own birth mother.
I never knew my real mother, not even a picture. It's just, I don't want her to go from one foster home to another without ever feeling truly loved. The thought of sending her to that kind of life.
And her winding up on the streets is actually due to bad misfortune. After her loving husband died via misadventure.
Was it AIDS? He slipped on a bar of soap in the bathroom.
No.
Hana's status as an out and proud trans woman disqualified her from a lot of job opportunities. Plus, she refuses to go back to her old job as a cabaret singer or ask her drag queen mother for help, partially due to her stubborn pride and also the guilt of assaulting a drunken patron who misgendered her.
A little bit of money took care of that guy. I'm just happy to see you again. It's been too long. Please don't cry. It scares me to death.
Lastly, Miyuki is the youngest and has been on the streets for less than a year, enough time to have lost a lot of the weight she had before she ran away from home, but still lacking the street smarts of Gin and Hana.
Unlike you bums, I can go home anytime I want.
The ones that say that never do, and you're no different than the rest.
Oh yeah?
She is the typical teenager, sulking, impulsive, usually responds with Gin and Hana asking her to do something with an
Looks like we're going on a trip.
Ugh, why?
But that teenage emotionality is what got her on the streets to begin with. The reason why she's a runaway is because she stabbed her father in a fit of rage after he accidentally let her pet cat run away, and she assumed he did it on purpose. The reason why she's on the lam is because her father is the chief of police, and that if she got caught by him or any of his officers, she would be turned in for attempted murder.
Wait, your dad's a cop? My father's also a policeman.
Father? Policeman?
Except If he ever sees me again, he'll arrest me.
Our three heroes' homelessness isn't a cause of their unhappiness. It's really more of a symptom, if anything. They're all at rock bottom because they've lost something they don't know how to get back. So alongside the main plotline of the three of them trying to find Kyoko's parents is the secondary plotline of our three heroes trying to find a way back to what they had lost. They all eventually do find those paths along the way. Gin has an encounter with a dying old homeless man who's dressed almost exactly like him. After staying with him and giving him his last drink and his final moments, Gin has the realization that that could be him in the future if he keeps declaring himself garbage.
But in death I'll be the same as I was in life, human trash.
Hey, don't say things like that.
Hana ends up reconnecting with her drag mother and is given a job offer before she leaves again, showing that she could have easily asked for help any time and that there was no shame in doing so.
My mother's white breath as she watches me set out on a long journey.
And Miyuki, through picking up a random newspaper, learns that her parents hold no ill will towards her and that her cat eventually did come home, showing that she might not have to worry about being arrested if she saw her father again.
Miyuki, is that you? Are you okay?
The journey of these three characters go through on top of their quest to find a baby's mother is what elevates Tokyo Godfathers. And it's also an important part of what makes it such a good Christmas movie. Tokyo Godfathers' status as a Christmas movie is interesting because it only takes place around Christmas time for the first act. For the rest of the movie, you can actually see the Christmas decorations being taken down and replaced for New Year's decorations. But it being a Christmas movie just goes beyond just the decorations. Tokyo Godfathers is a Christmas movie because it's all about Christmas miracles. Colin certainly did go out of his way to make this a grounded film, and any supernatural elements he did put in there had the rug quickly pulled out from under them in the name of a gag.
What is your desire? My magic or an ambulance?
Ambulance, please.
What? How rude!
But if there is a magical element to Tokyo Godfathers, it is the presence of miracles, big and small, that are dotted throughout the narrative's landscape. The story of Tokyo Godfathers is driven by coincidences. Nearly everything good that happens to our three heroes happens because they stumble upon the right thing at the right time. Our three heroes are wandering through a graveyard hopelessly trying to get food from the offerings to feed a hungry Kyoko after Miyuki loses the formula trying to avoid seeing her father. They end up finding an offering with baby formula and even more baby supplies. Our three heroes end up saving a man whose own car nearly ran over him. They find out the man is a Yakuza boss who invites them to his daughter's wedding, where the groom gives them some valuable information on Sachiko, the woman they are looking for. Our three heroes have to stop at a hospital after Hana collapses from an unspecified health condition she has, and we soon learn that the nurse tending to her is Gin's now 21-year-old daughter, allowing Gin to finally reconnect and apologize to her. Every story beat, whether it revolves around Kyoko, finding Kyoko's parents, or our three heroes' own personal journeys, are pushed along through coincidence. This is certainly unconventional storytelling, especially if you're the kind of nerd who takes Pixar's 22 Rules way too seriously, but it works for this story. Partially because there's so many of them that you eventually get used to them, but also because the coincidences appear to come from an unexpected source.
Kyoko, you're one lucky girl! God really does have a special place in his heart just for you!
So then why?
Was she abandoned?
Once our three heroes get a hold of Kyoko, they instantly avoid a lot of accidents and misfortunes that would have certainly befallen them. This is a runner throughout the movie, and it does result in some delicious dark comedy.
We hope to see you and your family again in the new year.
Call an ambulance.
But Kyoko's presence really does seem to bless people with good fortune. Not just our three heroes, but everyone around them. The Yakuza groom that we see get shot by an assassin ends up surviving. The old man Gin encounters is able to get his last wish of dying peacefully while good and drunk. Even the rowdy teenagers who beat up Gin are overheard to have been arrested for murder just because they beat on the old man's corpse. Hey, it's not a miracle for them, but it is for everybody else. But the biggest miracle Kyoko grants is for the one who kidnapped her, Sachiko. We learn that the reason why Sachiko kidnapped Kyoko in the first place was that she tried to have a baby to save her marriage to her deadbeat husband, only to have her child be stillborn.
All the other babies in the ward look so healthy, so full of life. Looking at them just made me want to die. But then this baby smiled at me. She was different. I knew she had to be mine.
The trauma of that, plus her postpartum depression, caused her to, for lack of a better term, snap. But before she can go through her final deed and take Kyoko with her, she hears her husband's voice. He saw her on the news and realized that she drove her to her lowest point and wants to make it up to her in any way he can. And that's when Kyoko finally gives Sachiko the will to live again.
I want to go home.
I'm sorry.
It really is enough that you believe that she was able to get the help she needed and not be tried for the many crimes she committed that night. But it's not enough that we end on that hopeful note, so we got time for one last miracle. The reason why Christmas is such an optimal time for believing in miracles is because it was founded on one of the biggest miracles. And while I, a non-believer, don't think Kon was a Christian by any stretch of the imagination, I think he understood the meaning behind it. It was the miracle that allowed for salvation. The film ends with the path towards salvation opened up to our three heroes. Gin has reconnected with his daughter and got a winning lottery ticket from the old man earlier in the film. Hana has reconnected with her mentor and potentially has a job that can get her off the street so as to not worsen her health. And Miyuki knows that her parents still love her and is now unavoidably brought to her father in the final shots. All because the three of them chose to be godfathers that Christmas Eve night. Of course, even if there was no supernatural element to it, that only makes the messaging of Tokyo Godfathers stronger. The three chose to help Kyoko out of the goodness of their heart, with no tangible reward in sight. It shows us that selflessness and goodwill to humanity goes very far. Isn't that what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown? Tokyo Godfathers is more than just a beautifully animated film. It's a Christmas film steeped in themes about being kind and helpful to one another in this holiday season, even when it feels like the most melancholy and downbeat. The film itself is a miracle if there ever was one. Thanks to Kon's untimely passing in 2010 and Nobumoto's own passing 2 years prior, we may never get a film like it again. It's not enough that I recommend Tokyo Godfathers. It's practically a must-see movie this holiday season. It's far more faithful to the Christmas spirit than anything Hallmark can crap out. But more than that, follow the lead of these three unlikely heroes. Help out those in need and give back this holiday season and beyond. It is, after all, what any decent person would do. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, you can always support the channel by donating to my Patreon. Click on the link below in the description. Each dollar gives you early access to my videos and helps me run this channel a lot more smoothly. You can also subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, or just like this video. Either way, you're helping me out this holiday season and making my venture into the next year an easier one. That's all for now. Happy holidays.